All right, so moving on with this tip installed, you can see that I now have the horizontal tip temporarily clecoed in place. I couldn't think of a good way to position this tip in this orientation in relation to this outside edge of this tip without actually having it in place. This tip is too long for the counterweight to swing through, so I really couldn't align it that way. And without it attached to something, you can't really align anything to it. So I went ahead and, like I had done on the other one, paying attention to edge distance, I laid out these 4 holes on the skin. The written instructions state that they approximate the distance to be 1.5 inches. So I just worked from this back edge of the skin, set my edge distance from this back edge, and then went 1.5 inches for the rest. And then, of course, from this edge of the skin coming back this way, keeping in mind edge distance, I marked where the holes should go. Keep in mind that you need to know or have an idea of your edge distance for the fiberglass that's underneath here. So that is all done. The nice thing is, if you do it this way, this is what I learned from doing the other side. If you maintain edge distance from this back edge and you go 1.5 inches, you can dimple this hole with the squeezer. There's enough room inside here to squeeze that. So that works out cool. So now I've got the bottom and the top drilled and clecoed. You can see that I'm only using a number 40 drill bit at the moment. A number 40 through the skin, fit the fiberglass inside, and then a number 40 match drill. I'll step those up later and do all the dimpling and all that once I get it fitted. So now with this in place, you can see that the counterweight won't swing through completely, which is what I want. So now I can start trimming this back until this will swing all the way through. Once I get it to swing through, I can continue to trim this, or I can do a combination of trimming this and trimming on the fiberglass and the counterweight here if I need to. Probably won't do a whole lot more on this because, like I said, using the square, I've got it pretty square in relation to this edge. This comes down, and then this through here is pretty much a 90. So I probably won't mess with this too much. I'll probably do all my trimming just on here. So that's it. For now, it's just a matter of trimming that back and getting your space between the two nice. So that's next. Talk to you soon. Howdy, everyone. All right, so this is it. I think I'm about done with fitting this tip. I just went ahead, like I said, and cleaned up this edge. I kept filing this back until I got my gap in here the way that I wanted it, and it's pretty much parallel and consistent with this gap here. So this is how it turns out roughly. And you can see it's not perfect. Of course, nothing ever is, right? So I'm happy with it. I'm going to keep it like it is for now. Let me switch hands here. So there it is. You can see, if I can get this laid in here right, you can see how it compares to the other gap. But it's fine. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it. It's nice and straight, and it's consistent all the way around. When you come down here, you can see it's consistent. And there's plenty of room for this to swing through. So at some point, I don't know when, I'll have to fill this in here. I'm on the fence about filling in these areas. I know a lot of people do. They fill this rib in, and I believe they'll fill this in on this back side in here. I don't know if I'm going to do that. I don't know if you have to. I'll have to go back and do some research, because I think there are some aerodynamic benefits to filling in empty ribs like this in certain locations. So I may revisit that. I may do the locations that are known to improve flight characteristics. This one is mandatory. You can't leave this open. You have to fill this in. But we'll see, because I want to build a super light airplane, and I'd rather not add stuff if I don't need to, and I definitely don't want to add stuff back here on the tail if I don't need to. So I don't know if I'll fill in these spaces or not. That's still to be determined. But as far as fitting this piece on the horizontal stabilizer, this is done. All I need to do now is drill these out to the proper size, dimple the skin, countersink this part, and then I can go ahead and install it. And again, like I had done on the other pieces, I'm going to use a little bit of Pro Seal. Well, it's not Pro Seal, it's fuel tank sealant. I'm going to go ahead and use some of that and the CS4 pop rivets. So let me do that real quick, because one thing that I do, and I'll show you what it's like. Wherever I am going to use countersunk rivets, pulled rivets, I'll dimple the skin, and then I'll come back with a countersink and I'll clean those dimples up a little bit, because the dimple, in my opinion, when you pull a pop rivet, especially a countersunk pop rivet, it creates a little bit of a dome to the head of the pop rivet. That could just be the puller I'm using. It could be my technique. I don't know. But I always end up, my countersunk pulled rivets are not perfectly flat. So I'll go ahead and dimple the skin, and then I'll run a countersink down into that dimple to clean it out a little bit more. And that allows my pulled countersunk rivet to sit down in there nice and flat. And I'll show you what that looks like. Actually, here's an example. No, that's not a good example. Let me do this real time, and I'll come back and show you what that looks like. Howdy, everyone. All right, so this is now finished. I match drilled this piece to this, which I had already done, of course, with the smaller drill bit. And then I went ahead and enlarged it to the appropriate size, which is a number 40 for the CS4 rivets, pop rivets. And then dimpled the skin, ran the countersink into the dimple a little bit just to clean it up, like I had talked about before, and then countersunk the tip itself so that it will fit the dimples in the skin. So nothing new, right? That's the kind of stuff we've been doing forever. So this is it. This is done for now. I'll go ahead, when I'm ready, I'll mix up some fuel tank sealant. I can put these on permanently. I'm considering mounting these permanently because, like I said before, well, I can't, let me see. Hold on, let me put this back a little bit. There's enough material, hold on, I gotta move this horizontal stabilizer so I can move that counterweight out of the way. Let me bring this back here a little bit. There we go. So I'm considering permanently installing these tips as well. I'm on the fence about it just because you're supposed to have the elevator completely painted and finished before you start fooling around with the lead weight to balance it. I am very seriously considering wrapping my tail pieces. So if I'm going to wrap the elevator, this tip needs to be in place. I don't want to wrap the tip separate. I want to wrap it as part of the elevator, especially since it's getting riveted on. I don't need to worry about screws and having it removable. So if I'm going to wrap it, I'm going to wrap it attached to the elevator. And I need to do that before I balance it. But I believe there's enough exposed material here for me to work with. And there's enough exposed material here for me to work with that if I drill up through here and if I drill down through here, I believe if I drill down through this face, I believe I can remove enough material to balance this. So at this point, I don't see any reason why I can't go ahead and install this permanently. So once I make a decision, I'll go ahead and mix up fuel tank sealant, and then I could potentially permanently mount both of the elevator tips and both of the horizontal tips. And then I can come back with some foam and epoxy and close off this opened area here on both sides. But that will come later. So this is done for now. You can see again, here's the gap. If I can show it this way, of course the gap changes depending on how you have the elevator, right? There's no gap there, and then there's a huge gap. So just as a point of reference, something like this. But anyway, it's consistent, it's even all the way around, top and bottom. And I'm very happy with that. So I think what I'll do now, I think I'll go back to my instrument panel real quick and just finish up the labels on it. And then the last piece that I have with the fiberglass tips is the horizontal stabilizer. And I would imagine it would just be more of this, where I'll connect the rudder to it, put the plastic tip on the rudder, or that's already on, that's permanently on. So I'll connect the rudder to the vertical stab and then make my last piece of fiberglass to fit. All right, that's it for now. When I come up with something else, I'll talk to you guys later.